talk a little bit of how to grow your user base. We're going to go to some of a little bit of a theory around it. So let's kick it off. So my name is Claudio Cossio. This is kind of a little bit what I do. Last 4 years I've been working with user acquisition for mobile applications. So I'm going to try to talk to you a little bit about that and see if I can impress you a little bit. So when you're thinking about growing your user base, many of us think like, okay, that guy got lucky, right? Like Flappy Bird, yeah, that's a pretty lucky guy, right? So what is luck? That's what the dictionary says about luck. So, but what really is it? And there's this guy called Dr. James Austin. He wrote a really good book that I recommend to you guys, which is Chase, Chance, and Creativity. It's a book that it was written in 1978, so it's really, really, really old. But its core features are something that I'm going to talk to you guys about. But in that book, he concludes that basically luck is something that the human interaction's it doesn't play a role in it. But we're working in a different environment here, and everything that's around tech, well, you know that we do something about it, and we can always do something about it when we're talking about audience. So he describes there are 4 types of luck, and they revolve around 2 factors. So first, you got the one that's the movement or the motor, which is exploratory, and then you have reception as well, or your perception about it, sorry. So these 2 factors count in how lucky you can get into getting users to use your app. Because most of it, when we're building products or we're building mobile games, we have hypotheses about what's going to be, where the engagement is going to be happening. So I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about that. So the first type of chance or luck is the one that occurs randomly. So that's the one that basically you put something out there, you put some content on it, and magically you get users around it. The second type of luck is the one that occurs because of your motion. So you're driving yourself to be lucky. You're driving yourself to land this big opportunity to get users into your app or to your service. And this is basically hustle, sweat, and tears. There's no way around it. It's really important that you distinguish motion from progress. It's quite different. People get like they're getting hits, they're using it, and people get the wrong impression. Oh, I'm killing it. This is moving. But at the end of the day, you have to distinguish motion from progress, and this is really, really important. So, out of the whole audience, how many of you are marketers? So, nobody's into marketing? Cool. So that's spammer over there. And I count myself as well, huh? So, just 2. So it's great. So one of the key things to know to distinguish motion from progress is basically you need to set up some KPIs and just bi-weekly. Just don't do paralysis by analysis. Just 2 or 3 KPIs bi-weekly. In that way you can measure and you see if shit is working or not. Because there's no way around it. You're not measuring, oh, let's see if I get some users from this part of town or this type of town. You just set up for yourselves. And establish clearly okay, I'm checking this KPI site out because this is the reason, and this is what I'm going to get out of it, right? It's not your normal or vanity metrics, right? Oh, I'm getting a lot of users. Well, yeah, but try to be really specific about it. Because once you get it specific, then the important KPIs will start emerging, and that way you can measure your progress, not just motion. And also be clear about the hypothesis, right? Getting with your team, and I know a lot of you guys are not into marketing, but at the end of the day, you will get some insights into it. And this will put you a little bit step further into getting lucky and getting yourself out of the rut when you're measuring and you're not going and you're not seeing where you're growing. And, this guy knew something about it. So just start moving, and you'll get lucky. So the third type is the one that you're prepared for, right? You know something, you know an insight into that industry, into that type of audience, into whatever. But you know you have this know-how. And so this is the third type of luck. But also, if you want to get lucky through this type of luck, you need to have like 3 steps and have it really clear, right? What are you observing, right? The analysis phase of it. How conceptually, how they're going to see it, how they're going to interact, right? And you got all the things in UX. And then also what people are going to get out of it, right? And sometimes one thinks it's really easy. Oh, yes. But, the perception out of the users is going to be completely different on the perception that you have. So be clear about it. And also, this guy said, luck is for the prepared. Like, are you prepared for it? Are you building applications or games that you have a completely good outlook on what it's going to be, what the value of the user is going to be getting? And the 4th type of luck is basically something that is around the personality of the people around it. So you get the first one, which is totally random. The second one is random, but it happened to you because you're moving toward a target or an opportunity. The third one is the one that you have knowledge about. And the 4th one is because of who you are, right? And we know this type of luck, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg got lucky, right? Like Steve Jobs got lucky as well, right? Popping a shitload of acid, right? And so he got into this iPod thing and this iPad thing. So, but also, running around like crazy builds on luck as well. So you don't have, that's why I told you, like 2 or 3 KPIs. Don't stir too much everything and try to randomly get lucky and get users into using your app. Just try to measure it good, and you'll get it. Because at the end of the day, one thinks what will work, but that's that's a flip coin. If you're setting up, if you want to grow, you need to set up the basis for it. You can just set randomly, okay, well, we think we're going to grow in Latin America, yeah, because we just translated it into Spanish. Yeah, right. Good luck with that one. So there's distinctive types. Like I told you, chance number 1 is completely random, but this does happen to user acquisition. The second one is basically favors the one that is constantly curious about it. So you're moving around, right? But you're still like a headless chicken. But something you're popping into users everywhere from left to right. But the third was the best one of all. That one is because you have a clear intention into the result of getting lucky, all those interactions that you do. And the 4th one is it's particularly for someone only. So this is kind of like the big unicorns that we call, right? Like the Slacks out there. Like, okay, so that even though I don't know how many of you know this, but you do know that one of the founders of Slack previously built Flickr, right? So he was setting himself up to be lucky, and that's because, and that's how Slack got built. But okay, let's cut the bullshit and let's rock and roll. So your first users. So how do you get them? Basically, they bump into your app, right? That's the first type of chance. Like you don't know how it is, but they bump into it. And you need to make this chance. This can be built. The key part of it, it's which channels are you using, right? As you see here, I'm not putting like SEM, SEO, and all the social media, blah, blah, blah. This is the new type of channels that you're going to see out there. And you need to build a message around it. As you see that we're not doing like growth hacks or anything. I'm just stating the facts on how you need to communicate with your users or with your potential user base in order for them to interact with your product, your game, or your service. So, how many of you use Slack? Raise of hands. Not many. Oh, it's not. Okay, that's cool. So so channels in Slack are really big. Like we're seeing companies that are building like channels inside of Slack to communicate with their audience. I don't know if PhoneGap does PhoneGap have a channel on Slack? There you go. Nice, Brian. Nice, Brian. So you see, they're using this new medium. But if, for example, you're a game, well, you need to look into Snapchat. That's the hip, young audience. How many of you have used Snapchat? Can you raise your hands? Yeah, I don't as well. Yeah, I'm the one telling you, but I don't use it. But I know that the next The next big wave of audience is going to be there. Are you ready to interact with it? Are you building products that could interact with the channel in order for you to push your message to them? Just think about it. And well, you got for us geeks, Reddit still works and all that stuff, Hacker News as well. Yeah, right? But then again, like, how many of you are Meerkat users? Can you raise your hands? Still not there, right? Periscope? Any of you Twitter fans? No? Just one? No? Okay. So neither am I. But is that going to be a channel? Might be. Who knows, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to find users in all this medium, and you need to think about that. So first type of chance of luck is like how you get your first early adopters, right? At the end of the day, it's just how you're connecting with them. Is the message clear to them? Did they see a benefit in it? Did they get something quick about it? Because that's how you get early adopters. You have a clear message into why your product or your game is for them, and they get it. And this is something that you don't need a marketer to do it. You can do this yourself, right? At the end of the day, you're building kick-ass products that you like, that you love, in the industry that you love as well. So get them some social proof. Get them to show off what you're doing, right? And this is not posting it on Twitter. This is not, like I told you, like, we need to think about the new medium. Are we interacting with other? Are we doing something with Slack? They have an API, right? Meerkat, they will more than surely have an API more than anything. Snapchat already has an API. How are you interacting with those channels? And here I like to quote a good friend of mine. But this is, at the end of the day, he's true, right? Either you get them late, you get them paid, or you get them made. Like, be clear about it. Are you doing any of these things for your users? Are you? I don't know. Just think about it. Get them late, it's like only if you were other type of apps. So the second type of luck, that's word of mouth, right? We always, that's how you get to know or know a couple of the apps or games or cool games. And this can be created as well. You can create word of mouth. And it's not, you don't need to pay a guy in marketing. We know how all this mechanics work. So you just need to package it and have those things really, really crystal clear to your audience. Like, what's their benefit of recommending it, right? And it's not, don't put me just there that, like, you can tweet this, you can Facebook this, you can Google Plus this. That doesn't work. Do you use it really? I don't think so. Most importantly is 2 times the benefit for the one that's getting the recommendation of it, right? How can you measure this, right? Well, think about it. Think where your interaction is going to be, and make sure that the new ones there, they don't get into a ghost town when they go in, but also that they see clear value, twice the value of the one that recommended it. And money talks, right? At the end of the day, if you're doing something that it's around business, well, make it sure it's money-wise for them as well. And understand the type of user you're pitching. Like, people don't want to do this whole, even in your mailing lists, segmented it, or when you're sending it, if you're sending it to a specific type of audience, there's a way to do it. And also make them love the benefit of it. That's how Airbnb got started as well, right? They saw this, and they have built these connections all around one thing, which is sharing your bedroom or your sofa or your house, which is something that everybody has done. But when they started, it was a crazy idea. How am I going to receive a stranger here, right? Even though Couchsurfing has been around for a long, long time. But they saw the benefit. They saw the benefit for the one hosting it, which is getting experience of living partially with a stranger, but from another country maybe, and sharing those experiences. And have you seen the new, like, the message around Airbnb? It's around their community. It's not about sharing your sofa or getting money out of it, even though it's a full-on transaction to do it. One of the key examples of this type of chance, is Uber, right? One of the things that people think, oh, Uber got it, yeah, because they got a lot of money and all that stuff. But they started really with a key key question is for the driver. It's not the one using it, but for the drivers was, okay, do you want to do a shitload of time doing the taxi thing? Or do you want to do this in a specific time and earn more money? So it was money talks there. That's how Uber got started. It's not by a rich guy with an app and then a Mercedes was going to drive through him, but was going to drive and pick them up. It was the guy driving that car. The value proposition for Uber was for the drivers. Make more money and on your time. And you're seeing these guys, they're killing it. Even though, well, it's in Barcelona, you can't use it, but there's so much politics that goes on into it. And so they understood, right? They understood the who was going to be using it, who the main players and the users were. And you have to understand this in your apps as well, or in your games. Who is interacting with them? If you're building kid games, you do know that your message has to go to the parent, right? It doesn't go to the kid. You can put a really smiley face and somebody doing some crazy stuff there, but at the end of the day, who's the one paying for it? It is the parent. What's the value that he's getting out of it? All of these things you need to understand, and it's understanding the user. To getting this in this first phase, permanent curiosity is super important. This means that they will be waiting for your message in order to interact with your company or your mobile game. So, and you start measuring everything, and that way you can replicate it in other parts of the country. It could be in any part of the world, right? On the growth stage. So, how many of you have big games, like more than 1 million users on them? Nope, nobody has published any of those type of games? 100,000? Nope. 50? 100? Sorry about that. Growth stage is surrounds around community. It's the only way where you can sustainably grow it. It's just you're not just putting money into it. And there are perfect examples, and we're part of it. PhoneGap, that's a community. So, but how do you kickstart it? Like, okay, you get your first, you have a good base of users, but then you have to grow a community. And you have to seed your vision, right? And we're doing it here, right? Everybody has one full ambition, which is using the web to build mobile applications, right? JavaScript, HTML. We don't have to sell you this, or PhoneGap doesn't have to sell you this, or Telerik doesn't have to sell you this, because you already sold. Somebody else has seeded this in you before. So this is how you grow a community. And also, very important, you have to have previews of your release. And this is not just spamming them. It's just a full-on preview. It's just really getting the feedback cycle from them. And this in mobile games is really important. It's one of the key factors around people getting always excited about what you're building. Robio was a good example of this, even though they lost their way, or their mojo, some will say. But they started really good. They started understanding what the community that was fostering around it, and they managed to be monetizing really good, right? At the end of the day, my kid has a Angry Birds backpack. I already bought the goddamn toys, but it's how you package it as well, and the message that you get across. And most importantly, it's showing progress, not only movement. And progress, this is where many people get lost in translation. Because progress sometimes could mean working with the newest technology, could be just something that is how you interact also with your audience and with your users. So you have to be really, really keen on what all the metrics that you're getting through the first users that you get. But when you go into a growth phase, you need to understand what progress means to all of your users, or the majority-based. And you're going to have to be a little bit, how can I say? You just work with the 10% of your user base that is really interacting with you, which is really curious, and which is making you more lucky. And your message has to be around your core utility. What are they getting? And you can try different things, but always stick to the core, because that's what people understand. And this is, for example, what PhoneGap have built, right? At the end of the day, people need to understand what you do clearly, the value you're providing to that user, and also to your network. That's the way you sustain growth. Also, another example is this, guys. So these guys are a crowdsource Street View application. So it's like the Creative Commons version of Google Street View. These guys are leveraging the OpenStreetMap community in a really, really, really keen example. All the content that they're providing to those maps is going to be donated to the OpenStreetMap community. So the community gets the value out of it, but also it's a network effect because it's affecting other users on the OpenStreetMap platform. They're growing 700,000 photos per week as we speak, and they're going to hit 1 million anytime soon. So this is a viral effect. People understand the value of it. It's a really, really tight niche audience, and it's still not there. And the big hurdle that they're going to face is how they're going to jump to a consumer face or consumer user out of that niche. And you do that by providing value, consistency in the messaging that you do, but also you need to give back to the community. We've seen like there are all these different initiatives where they're trying to foster the community. Like, for example, Waze got a little bit of a slap in the face by the community when they sold to Google, right? Because they're saying, okay, we're providing all this value to the platform, and then you go on and sell yourself, and then and the value now has a how can I say, an owner. There's no value back to the community. Even though, for example, in Mexico City, Waze is like the application you have to have on your car. It's 24 million people driving on a weekend there. So getting the best routes, for example, to the airport can be not a life and death, but just let's just say that it's a whole-on experience to do it. So when you go to Mexico City, download Waze. At least the taxi driver is not gonna give you two rounds around the block. I was a little bit fast because I want to leave space for questions. But at the end of the day, it's just this is what you got to do, right? Like, you build a product and then people go Super Mario on it. So, I'm gonna leave a lot of time for questions. Thank you very much, Amsterdam. It was a pleasure being here. And so. Oh, sorry. So that's my email. If you have any questions, you can tweet it as well. If you have questions, you can tweet it to Christian using the hashtag or just spam him as well. So let's stick it up, Chris.
Stick it up? Okay. Yeah, let's sit down then. So, do you sometimes stay up all night to get lucky?
Oh, I spam a lot of people to get lucky.
I hate that song. You talked about growth hacking in a very quick, way, like just on the wayside. It's a big thing right now, isn't it? And to me, it's like some of the tricks just are the dirtiest black hat SEO stuff that I've seen for a while, like auto-following people on Twitter by like writing JavaScripts inside developer tools. When you start to grow a brand for your product or something like that, how do you compete with people like that?
Yes, it's you have to, one, is that doing that, you're not providing value to the user, right? That's one of the key questions. When you're doing anything of the growth hacks or anything of the marketing that you do, you need to understand what's the value of it, of people interacting with that message only, right? Because, or your features. Because most people just want to auto-follow people, like people and all that stuff, or spamming on your timeline and all that stuff, and you need to cut down on those type of activities. Because people see through it. People are not dumb, right? And also when you're doing games, like people get really, really annoyed. Like you're just turning off people. And the bad thing about it is they're gonna talk bad about you. And in that sense, like that type of publicity is not good one. It's not a good one for you.
Yes, but when you have to show numbers to your investors really quickly, people pivot very quickly into that dark area, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. You get when when the push comes to shove, you know, there's a tendency, right? Like for example, what was it? People bought like users on Instagram. I'm like, really? Are you buying users on Instagram? Like, well, yeah, we gotta get on. And I'm like, dude, man, it's just that's not pretty smart. But the users, for example, I'm going to take like Mapillary, for example. So they're invested by Sequoia, right? So they're a big player. But Sequoia understands that the key value here is just getting, they don't need a million users. If they got 1,000 users, and for example, there's this guy in Germany that he has close to 3 million photos. Just one guy. Like, and it's like a key question. Oh, what do you do all day, right? But
Writing bots that take pictures and upload them to Instagram?
true that. But no. No. On Mapillary, it's a crowdsource. So you have to use your phone. There's no quick way around it. But the core value of what Mapillary does has to talk to that person in what he does, which is this guy is a cartographist. So he sees value in using this thing all day, right?
It is quite interesting because I used to work on Yahoo Maps, and I know how much money goes back and forth about these kind of things. And then OpenStreetMap came out, and then Google did like their Ingress game as well to map the world out because they obviously don't have enough geographical data yet, I think. And it's just, yeah. Every time these open source things come out, they're really good, and they get a bit of press and everything, but they die really quickly as well. When Google Maps started charging for Maps usage, a lot of startups were basically completely in the cold because out of a sudden, like, where do I get the $40,000 from that I have to use every month on Google Maps? And oh, how about OpenStreetMap? Well, they look awful. Was always the answer, and you're like, well, people will get used to it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's you have to understand two things. One is why the user is right now using it, and are they tied to your vision, to your next iteration, right? That's a big problem with open source projects, right? They don't make the leap. It just gets either lost in translation, or they just don't get it. They don't get how the user is evolving, and that's one of the key 4 principles that I said in the evolution of it. Are you going to be prepared to grow with the type of user that you're fostering and the community that you're fostering? Like Brian and Andrea and Dave are a good example of how they went in, fought their battles, and have leverage, selling a PhoneGap to Adobe and doing the whole process in it. It's not easy. It hurts, and you're gonna lose users. But as long as a core of your core utility message is still there and people get it, they will migrate to your new iteration.
It's interesting that you mentioned Slack and Stuart, and I used to work for Yahoo, and I used to work with them as well. And Flickr started out as a game. The game never ending, and then out of a sudden people realized, oh, it's probably good to collect photos and put metadata on that as well and start a community around it. And Flickr was probably the most happy social environment that I worked in, because it's like I loved my photos. I loved to see my friends' photos. They tagged it. They had proper stuff on it. There was proper descriptions on it. And then it just went to nothing, because Yahoo just basically didn't do much with it and didn't foster the community of it as well. And everybody went to Instagram and Facebook. And nowadays you can't even find, at this conference, I don't know where to find the photos anymore, because people put them in like 6,000 people different locations by now. And everybody's like, oh yeah, Stuart did Flickr, so obviously now with Slack he has a big success as well. But in between he also did Glitch, which ran out of money and went into the ground, but then got open sourced and nothing happened with it either. And his ex-wife also did another startup that was totally hyped because ex-Flickr person. So what about the whole rockstar thing that comes with startups? Like the second round seems to always be a failure.
True. There's always this mystifying of the founders, right? And this is one of the key parts here is you also foster those failures, and you learn through those cycles, right? You go all the way up, and well, the reality of it is that you're not going to stay up for a long time. It's like you're going to hit rock bottom, because once the stakes are high, it's gonna be up there for you always as a founder. But when you're building, like, if this is your second or third try and failure, you're learning through those cycles, and you're learning to build or package the message with your product and service, and communicating that to the audience, right? And this is something that it's done really, really good with Slack. Even though they say, I don't know how the shit we've grown so fast, right? But they do know. They do have their metrics behind it, and they do know how the interaction between users and the building of the channels is growing, and that's where they're fostering it, and that's where they're getting brands in there as well. So yeah, it's a two-way street. Either you make it, or sometimes the community is not gonna be there for you as well. They may outgrown you, right? Like for Flickr, that's what happened. Like, well, it didn't outgrow them. It's just they didn't get the young and hip crowd, right?
Question here, is gamification value or manipulation?
Oh,
it's kind of a very loaded, very open question.
Okay. Foursquare, for example, right? Huh. They brought in batches now again, right? They thought that, oh no, we wanna be more, how can I say, more serious now.
Well, the investors told them, how do we get businesses into that rather than people talking with each other? How do we monetize it? The only place where they monetized was New York. Nobody else showed ads.
The thing is that they were not true to their vision, because that's how the community grew around them.
Yeah.
And then you took that out. Like, for example, I was a big Foursquare user, but then they flipped to two applications, and I said, fuck no, I'm not gonna have two applications on my phone. Like, why would I?
There's
right?
no space for two applications on a phone?
Oh, yeah, I was using an iPhone 3 on that time. No, the thing is that it's not tied to they did not sold me that when I got into Foursquare.
Well, especially you get push notifications from both apps, so it's actually more noise than from what you get back.
And the value is not there. And now they're trying, like for example, I saw the Swarm app for the iWatch. What is it? The watch from iPhone from Apple. Sorry about that. Mind my English. And okay. I did see value on it.
You can't say Apple on stage. It's okay.
I did see value on it, on that type of device.
Yeah.
But on my phone, I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to use it. So it's being true to your vision, and knowing that if the users have not evolved, you cannot just go them and drag them in, because and this is so true to the mobile space. It is a real estate business. Are you going to be providing me enough value that you're worthwhile to having on my home screen?
Yeah. Well, especially that's funny. I mean, people always say like, oh, the apps are a much better model, and then like in the end, you have to be one of 9. And when you look at the money coming in, most of the people spend 80% of their time on Facebook on their phones. And the other thing is a few games and Google services. So they're the big winners. But they keep telling us like, oh, you brought an app, you got millions of users through our platform. It's quite interesting. What I find talking to investors right now, everybody is just pushing their companies that they supported into getting into the teenage market, because that's the one that's annoying enough to their parents, so they get a lot of money and they buy them things. But it's probably the most flaky market I can think of, because as a teenager, I changed my mind every week, and what I liked the week before was terrible the week after. So is this sustainable, or is this like, are we running out of ideas how to get people?
No, so that's one of the things where we're heading, right? And that's a big question to answer. And this comes, and I'm going back again to the thing of evolving, right? Because is my message gonna hold? That's the key question. Is my core utility gonna hold to the needs of this audience. Because yes, they change what? Every quarter or every time Pepsi changes its, and you can see, like, for example, good brands are like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and all this, Red Bull you can see as well. And these are a good indicator of when the times are changing. And this is something that you can leverage, right? And more importantly on the print side, because they have to be really, really advanced. And you can see what the message is, and then you can, okay, so these guys, they changed now, right? And it's just like a red flag for you to get your shit together because this is going to change again. It's tough. And we see like companies coming and going that are focused for that core market, right? And there's no key way of like nailing it, like Snapchat, for example. And now that they're getting the big brands in it and they're going to get a little bit more serious, then, and sometimes for the Snapchat users, they're like, no, I don't want news here. But then again, for me, when I saw all these things that they were launching, I said, okay, that for my evolution, it did make sense. But the problem is, I'm not a core Snapchat user. So how do you leverage that? And like getting enough core users to buy that vision, or you can seed that vision in order for them to grow and hit the right type of market where you're going to make money out of it.
What is your stance on being sparse at the beginning? Like, do the whole thing, oh, you get an invite to 5 other people and you have to be one of the inner circle. I remember when Gmail was cool about this. And now I'm like, okay.
No, and you used to see like 1,000 invites there, right?
yeah, or you had to send things around for people. Is that still working? I think it's kind of making yourself scarce first and then exploding can work.
Well, how many of you used ELO, the ELLO? Have any of you signed up? 1, 2, 3. Are you still using it? Hold your hand up.
There's a difference between signing up and using it, yeah.
That's the thing, right? What value did we get out of ELO?
Our freedom.
You have a Facebook account, right?
No. Yeah.
No, the thing is that, yeah, there's no value in it. The privacy, come on. Like, there's no way around it. The only thing privacy, you put yourself underground and under 3 or 4 kilometers of cement. That's the only way you're going to be private enough. So
then you can't breathe. No. Well, I mean, that's quite a statement. But to finish up, well, almost. No. When you ask the question, who here is in marketing, and nobody wanted to admit it, although if you make your own app, sooner or later you have to think about marketing as well. And the quote like Dave McClure's, and he's this super aggressive man on stage as well, when I saw get them laid, I thought asshole.
Yeah.
Because that is such a bro term, such a arrogant man term. We shouldn't be surprised if that there's not many women entrepreneurs that are actually working with him or going into this. We have to stop that crap. Yeah,
no. Sorry for it if I offended anybody, but yeah, that's a full-on quote from Dave. At the end of the day, it's we do have to stop those type of things. The only thing is it's a clear message, right? It's like it was more around what the person is going to get out of it, right? Yeah, getting laid. Yeah, it's not into the, for example, not in my top 10 things to get out of an app, right?
There's not many that do that.
Yeah, a couple of 2 or 3 there comes to mind. But the thing is yes, it's we're not getting enough. Well, I do see a couple of women here, so it's not that, but still, yeah, we're pretty much segregated and segregating as well. So yeah, it's the messaging around technology and mobile. And technology around it is more focused for the man. And is it a bad?
But when you look at the Envision or whatever it's called, the user statistics in Europe, then most of the app usage on iOS is women.
True.
Which is quite funny that we have these loudmouth people there saying like this is how you grow, and then like the users are different people actually.
True. And it's also the best target to have as a user. Because they're the ones that are the core buyers. Like a man, they're like, they give it too much thought into it. And when women are a different type of audience when it comes to consuming and also making a decision. So they're more focused into making a decision to buy than a man. A man is always browsing, and then all of a sudden they'll get they'll say, oh, yeah, I need to buy it. And then you go ahead and directly buy. But the woman is always browsing and more focused into doing that thing, which is consuming that thing that they need.
Okay, one last thing. We're almost over time to bring it back into a normal discussion again. 99p apps work, but you don't. It's not a business model. Whereas, like, if you charge what you really need to charge, you're probably not going to be successful in the app market. So, are we trying to outbid us ourselves into this? What's the way out of that?
Right now, and the taxman is Apple at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
He's getting like a big chunk of a whole business, which was really smart from them. But it's tough. The thing is, and we're coming again to the teen market, which is totally around it, like $1 apps and really like disposable. Can you grow out of it? Right now, at this particular moment, no. You have to go through through that channel and discover get lucky and try to get lucky in the good sense. That is, okay, I find this audience where I can sell them or promote another product that is gonna get me out of the rut. But in the meantime, yes, you're building 99 apps a year and hopefully trying to get lucky on one of them. And what I spoke about today, hopefully they'll get them a little bit near.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, everyone.